Hey, everybody. Coach Hughes here. I'm in the podcast studio getting ready for another podcast. I'm really excited about this one. I'm excited about all of them. They've all been amazing. This one, a little different as I'm a huge sports fan. And one of my early idols growing up was a guy named Doug Flutie. If you don't know who Doug Flutie is, he's probably most famous for throwing the Hail Mary pass against University of Miami in 1984. Kind of put him on the map, if you will. And then he ended up going on to having a 12-year career in the NFL. He also had an 8-year career in the CFL, the Canadian Football League, where he won 3 championships up there and was also the MVP for all those 3 championships. But the thing that I resonated with me was, he was kind of overlooked, undersized, but his tenaciousness, his resilience, his drive, maybe a little bit of chip on his shoulder. I don't know. We'll find out when we talk to him. But he's a guy that I've always looked to as what possibilities, what could be done, and not listening to the naysayers, if you will. So really looking forward to having this conversation, talking about leadership, talking about culture, adversity, but also learning a little bit more about. I know what his passion is helping those who don't have a voice, those special needs folks, those people who are on the margins, if you will. So looking forward to the opportunity to chat with them, and I hope you get some good nuggets out of it. So, Doug Flutie. All right. Hey, everybody, Coach Hughes here for another Be Best You podcast. And as an athlete, if you know anything about me, I grew up playing sports. My dad was a coach. They call me coach. And to be able to have this gentleman on the podcast is truly an honor for lots of reasons. I want to welcome Doug Flutie to the podcast. Doug, thank you.
Thank you for having me. Looking forward to it.
I think yeah, I appreciate it. Most people have heard of you. Those who haven't, probably put on the map for lots of things, but the one 1984, the Hail Mary pass against Miami, and then you went up having an NFL career. I think it was 12 years and 8 years in the CFL, and played to 43, which I think is pretty admirable. You always hear about Tom Brady playing to 44, and he gets all the credit for that, or Christy Rampone playing soccer till she was 41. But in addition to everything else you've done, I think playing to 43 in a physical league like that, that's something that I don't think gets as much attention as some of the other things that you've done. So I appreciate that example.
Still trying to prove people wrong. That's what Steve Grogan did. I remember Steve Grogan was quarterback with the Patriots in the 70s and into the 80s. And they asked Steve about why is Doug still playing. He said he's still trying to prove people wrong. And that's kind of pretty accurate. You get that chip on, and that's what Tom wanted to show people, that they were wrong about him as a 6th-round pick, and he kept going.
So, I mean, that's go right into that. I mean, obviously one of the things is, let's say the undersized. I was one of those people. I was 4'10" as a freshman. I graduated second smallest in my class as a senior. I wasn't very good at academics. So I always felt like I had to, and you didn't I'm 60, so you didn't talk about a lot of that stuff back then. But I personally felt like I had a lot of things going against me, and I probably brought them on myself. But it also I put a chip on my own shoulder where some people don't put the chip on their shoulder. That being said, how important it is to continue to prove yourself over and over and again.
Well, first thing is you need something that motivates you on a daily basis, whatever that is. For me, I grew up, we didn't have much. We were relatively poor, didn't have much. I was undersized. There were a bunch of motivating factors. And you need something that's going to get you up and out of bed every morning and motivate you to be better than the other guy, whether it's getting up and go for your run, getting your workout in, whatever you're doing. So there needs to be something. So the fact that people were constantly telling me that I was too small for this, I didn't even know that. I didn't know I was too small until I got to college, and I was being recruited actually, and they were basically no Division I offers. I was very fortunate to get an offer from Boston College very, very late. And then I realized people thought, oh, I was too small to be a Division I quarterback. In fact, I got to Boston College, and I just assumed they knew what they were talking about. I was getting ready to change positions. And then my opportunity came. I got on the field, started playing, and you realize this is the same game I've played all my life.
Hmm.
I've only known it from my perspective. This is the only way I've known it. Throw the ball to the open guy, catch it, move the chains, score touchdowns, whatever. It was the same game. So obviously, it was a funny. I went back to my high school all the time and visited. My high school coach was still there. And one day the kids were like, take a snap, throw a ball. Blah. So I got under center. I dropped back, had a guy in the middle, read ball, hit the guy down the middle of the field. I'm like, oh my God, I can see everything. This is what it must be like to be 6'4" in the NFL, because the offensive linemen were still 6 foot. They were
Yeah.
still a little taller than me, but at least I could see. And I'm like, geez, that's like cheat. Tom Brady's cheating at 6'5". This
Yeah.
is ridiculous. So yes, there's something that has to motivate you on a daily basis to make you want to be better than the other guy, or whether it's proving someone wrong or just an inner drive, there has to be something that motivates you.
Yeah, and then to have the longevity, that you had too. Is I mean, one in college and then getting into the NFL and going from different teams, but you had success in almost every team you had, all the teams you had, and then you had to move on, and you went up to the CFL and three championships, three MVPs. That's proven some people wrong right there, I think. But yeah, just playing with that chip on your shoulder, how does that play into being a leader of other people? What without
I
sometimes when
think that
you can be
I,
selfish about it.
I think the leadership thing, I never really like this day and age. There's a script for leadership, qualities you're supposed to have, things you're supposed to do. I didn't have that. I didn't think that way. All I thought about was winning, and what
Mhm.
does it take to win, and do everything. There's so many variables in the game itself that you can't control, things that are going to happen. You can control your conditioning, your mental preparation, and how you prepare others around you to do the same, to go out and be successful. And that's all I was about, was winning. And to me, in college, sitting in the lunchroom, sitting at dinner with the guys, I was talking football nonstop. Yeah, like Gerard, we had that play today where we came in on the in route, but you know what? Can you read that guy? And if he's overplaying and running, can put your foot in the ground. Could you do that? And he's like, yeah, those types of things
Mhm.
translated to game day all the time. And I didn't know, most guys, once they leave the practice field, they're in party mode. They're in, chasing girl, whatever they're doing. And I wasn't. I was like constantly locked in. So
Mhm.
it was seen as leadership that I was going around and talking to my offensive linemen about what they do well, or what can we do. Um, Shoot, game day, especially CFL, because I was calling my own plays on game day. If it was 3rd and 1, I'm asking the offensive line what they want to run, because I was calling my own plays anyway.
Mhm.
And a lot of these things were viewed as leadership qualities and things you did, but to me, it was just trying to win football games. And the one bottom line, the one thing that I would never ask anybody to do, anything I wasn't willing to do myself.
Mhm.
Whether from a prepper, if I'm asking guys to watch extra film or let's get together, of course, I'm not telling them to go do it. I'm doing it myself with them. Um, and those are the things that were always viewed as leadership that I didn't understand. I didn't understand that was being leader. I'm just trying to do whatever it is to win.
Yeah, I think it's in the industry I'm in, a lot of people who get to that leadership position don't know how to lead, kind of like almost a captain of a, I always say like captains of teams are typically the best players, and then they become the captains, and then we wonder why they're not effective because we don't really necessarily teach them how to be a captain, how to listen. What I heard, what you said was, instead of telling people what to do, which some people think that's what leaders do, you're actually asking people what to do and getting their feedback and collaboration. And here you are, you're making all these decisions at split second, but you're not just making it on your own, you're getting input from other people.
That's the second you think you know it all, it's over. I
Yeah.
mean, you just you take it, and I don't want to get political, but um,
Mhm.
I was with Donald Trump not too long ago, and he's asking your opinion. He's asking everyone at the table their opinions about things and taking this information in.
Mm.
You never know it all. And I did that all the time. I'd sit with the receivers. What do you run well? What do you want to run against this guy? How's he playing you on the backside? And yeah, knowing you don't know it all is part of the deal, and that you're still learning. Once once you think you've arrived, it's over.
Right.
The desk, and I learned that from Tom Brady more than anyone. It was towards the end of my career. I always thought there was a finish line. I always thought once you accomplish this, you've done it. Whether it was be a Super Bowl, Pro Bowls, made it through an NFL career, put all this money away so that you don't have to work any. I always thought there was a finish line. There is no finish line, because once you accomplish this, there's something else ahead. And I've got another, 25, 30, 40 years. I'm 63 years old. There's still a lot to do ahead of you. If you
Yeah.
just sit and there is no finish line. You've accomplished a goal, but now you got to turn it forward and look at what's next.
It's crazy you say that. I'm in class right now and I'm teaching. I'm in the third day of a 5-day class, and we're kind of coaching these guys to realize that they're pouring into so many other people. They need to pour into themselves. And yesterday, I guess our phones listen to us, and what ends up popping up on my phone is something that Andre Agassi talked about, how all he wanted to be was number one. And when he got there, he thought that would be the pinnacle of happiness. And then he realized he was miserable, and he went to 143. And then he started over. And I think I thought of that. And then I went right to, I remember watching an interview with Lenny Dykstra, and how all he wanted to do is win World Series. And then, meaning this was their goal, but they didn't have a goal beyond that. Um, and you can get lost. And I think everybody's trying to figure out, I need to be successful now. I kind of tell young people, be aggressive, but be patient. So I think that's important to not just have a goal that you want to strive, but what's your goals beyond goals? And I think that's what I heard you speaking about.
True, and being patient, like especially this generation, they want immediate results and they want immediate satisfaction.
Mhm.
So it doesn't happen overnight. That long grind to get to where you're trying to get, it can take a while. It could
Mhm.
happen overnight, but it's probably not gonna. And then, like you said, and the one thing Tom always said, "What's your favorite Super Bowl? The next one. What's your favorite championship? The next one." Right? It just, and he thought that way from way back. I didn't. I always, like I just said a little while ago, I always thought there was a finish line. There is not. It's the next one. It's the continuation. It's a lifelong journey. I
Mhm.
just, I mean, I was fortunate. I played 21 years and all that, and kept going. And part of that motivation, as we said in the very beginning, was I'm still trying to prove people wrong.
Yeah.
Well, once football ended, I was done trying to prove people wrong, and I decided I'm just going to do what I enjoy. I'm happiness now, right? From there forward is things that make me happy are my goals, and a big part of my work ethic now, or work or organization, is the foundation for my son with autism and all that. So that's become a bigger part of my life. But still, I just got back to playing a baseball tournament. I'm
Mhm.
like, this is I'm going to enjoy whatever it is. I'm going to, if it's not fun, I'm not doing it.
Yeah. No, that's kind of be best too. The tagline is everybody else is taken, because I think we spend so much time trying to, everybody does fulfill other people's dreams, fulfill whatever expectations you have for yourself. And then you get to a point where you're like, why don't I just be the best version of who I am right now and enjoy this time?
Yes.
Um, I'm getting back. I got both my hips replaced from playing stuff, and I'm just starting to feel good. I'm getting back on the bicycle, which I enjoy doing, and finding that those activities to keep me driven moving forward. Having goals beyond goals is important. And I know the franchise of Peter Cancro, and I think something he always used to say. I remember when we opened our 1,000 store. Every time we hit a milestone, we were like, let's celebrate. We scored a touchdown, and he very quickly said, "No, we're still on the 40-yard line."
Hmm.
That confused a lot of people and maybe me at first, but what I realized is that, when you feel like you got someplace, you can get complacent. And when you get complacent, you get rusty, you're not sharp, you're not paying attention, and that's where things can fall apart. So,
Yeah,
uh,
coaches especially. Coaches, when we won a game, they coached harder the next week because they know that happens. You
yeah.
get, you may have not had the best game of, the year. You guys, you made mistakes. We got away with something and we won, and you walk away with a fulfilled feeling because you got the win. And even if you played great, coaches wanted to overcoach and push you because they know after a win you get a little complacent. After a loss, everybody's aggravated and you're re-motivated to work hard and get ready for that next game to get rid of that gut-wrenching feeling of a loss. That's easy. It's when you're on a little hot streak and everything's feeling good to continue to work hard. You say, the thousands franchises, you got to take a moment and acknowledge a couple of accomplishments along the way. You really do. You enjoy pat on the back. We've been working hard, but
Mhm.
there's the goal. This wasn't the goal. The goal's out there. And that is a hard thing for a lot of people to realize. And I think even when I was younger, it was hard to, it, like I say, I always thought there was a finish line. I was happy with a win. I was happy with a bowl game. I was happy with it. And no, you got to keep looking ahead. And I learned a lot from being around Tom. I only spent 1 year playing with Tom Brady, and
Yeah.
I was 42, 43 years old at the time, and it kind of woke me up to the work's not over.
Hmm.
You got to keep going.
Yeah, get inspired, right? I think about, you know, a big part of being best you is taking care of yourself. I'm at that point, 60, like you said, you're 64. I beat myself up. I'm sure you did as well. But to have longevity in the league like that, but taking care of yourself at an early age is one that people take a granted that they're going to be able to lift through it, run through it, limp through it. But I heard a quote where we spend our youth to gain and our health to gain our wealth. But then when we don't take care of ourselves early on in our life or our career, we end up respending our wealth to gain our health. Obviously you took care of yourself over the years. What's some advice for a young leader in particular at 22, 24, 25 years old? What are some habits that are you find today that are crucial in having some longevity?
Number one, I never drank. I never drank. Never did drugs. Never drank. Never smoked pot. All that, stuff that was easy for a lot of guys to get into.
Mm,
Um, I was so goal oriented and so about football. Conditioning was the most important to me. I just felt it was one of the things that I could control in an environment where there are a lot of variables. I could control that, and
mm,
there's no excuse for me not being the best conditioned athlete on the field. And along with that, what it did was create a discipline. Tom Coughlin was my offensive coordinator back in college. Most disciplined coach I'd ever been around. He got more out of me than anybody could ever. Yeah, I mean, I credit after I played for Tom Coughlin, everything else was easy.
mm,
And I was a great student. I had great success on the field, all because of the way he molded me and created a discipline to me. And
mm,
part of that was saying, there's no excuse for not being the best athlete. There's no excuse for not being the best prepared mentally every day. Do the things that you can do. And then that's carried over. That became a lifestyle for me.
mm,
I'm 63 years old. I had a knee replacement this year,
mm.
and I'm still playing. 5 weeks after knee replacement, I was playing baseball. 5 weeks, supposed to be a 5 to 9 month rehab. I just got back from my third baseball tournament in 4 months after knee replacement. Um, I'm jogging a couple of miles a day, still surfing, I created these habits that are lifelong habits. And I also read that part of longevity in life and living a long life is keeping your legs strong, because so many people run into issues when they have a fall later in life. Your legs aren't strong. You start sitting on the couch, you
Mm.
gain weight, your health declines. People that have falls, breaking a hip, whatever, later in life, keep your legs strong, keep going, keep doing what you've done all your life. Now, I'm not running 6 minute miles out there, and I'm not lifting heavy weight, but I'm doing enough to stay strong and stay healthy. And that also keeps your mind healthy. It reduces stress, reduces all the wear and tear. It all plays into a lifestyle of being healthy and being mentally sharp.
One of the things that teaching a lot of the, again, speaking to a lot of the younger managers, but people who are a little older that were working with younger managers, one of the hardest things in my industry, the service and hospitality industry, is having people look at what we do as a professional job. And I'll ask them how many people, like say I have 50 people in the room right now, I'll ask how many have had a professional job. Only like 5 people raise their hand. And I'll ask what constitutes a professional job. In their mind, they'll say a degree or an office and stuff. But I heard Dirk Jeter say like all he asked of his teammates was to be a professional. Um, and a couple things that come in line in order to be a professional. One is you have to be disciplined. You have to take care of your body. All those other things. What is your idea of a professional, and what would you say to a young person on, importance of not just showing up on time, but being punctual, or, being well groomed, or being a good listener?
The number one thing I think is that you care more than just, it's not a 9 to 5 job. When you punch a clock, like,
Mhm.
especially a lot of young people today, they've got their phone with them at work, whether it's at a Starbucks or wherever they happen to be working. You've got to care about the job.
Mhm.
You've got to have pride in your work ethic and what you're doing. When you just are punching the clock and getting the paycheck, you're checked out. When
Mhm.
you care more, like how many of your employees think about, they think it's the owner's job to think about, how can we make the company better? How can we make this a little more efficient? How can I do that? And when you get to that point, now it's a professional job. When you get to the point where you're thinking about, you care about the outcome of the company. You care, and I don't care what the company, whether it's McDonald's, Jersey Mike's, or a professional football player, when you care about the outcome of the company,
Mhm.
now you're doing things mentally, away from the field, away from the locker room, that are still going to benefit the group. And
Yeah.
and I always said that when no one cares about who gets the credit and just cares about the outcome,
Mm.
good things start to happen. When you just start thinking about, hey, oh, that's not my job. I'm not supposed to wipe the floor. I'm not, pick the thing up, you know,
Yeah.
when you don't, oh, that's not my job. My job, I'm doing this. It, then it's over. It's like game planning. When if a wide receiver isn't thinking about game planning, doesn't come to me with ideas, just because that's not his job. That's the offense coordinator's job.
Mm.
Now all of
Yeah.
a sudden they're coming to you with ideas, and then it might even spark another idea for you. And third down and 14 on game on the line, you got a game plan.
Well, and I also think too, when you're younger, you get an opportunity, you're supposed to grind it out, work hard, show up first, stay late, all those kinds of things that our generation was told that's what you need to do. And I have this thing is work smarter, not harder. But I think it's about working harder at getting smarter, and always working more hours doesn't mean you're working smart, but working
That's
more
true.
efficiently.
I agree with you, right? Just because you're putting in all these hours, there used to be guys, coaches especially, that would sit in the office till late at night,
Mm. Yeah.
and God bless them because they work their tail off. But are you accomplishing anything? Just because you're there, doesn't mean you're accomplishing something. So yes, getting things done, being efficient with it, being smarter about how you're working. Um,
I think too, like I'm a giant fan, and Tom Coughlin when he coached, I remember that documentary on how his family intervened with a straight hand. If you watch that documentary, and how the relationship just changed, and he ended up winning a Super Bowl. But at his age, at where he was in his career, that's the way he did stuff. That's the way it was done, and yet at the tail end of his career, he realized that while it worked, it didn't have to be the only way, and he adapted, he adjusted, and
to this day, Tom, I mean, he like I said, I want a finish line, right? I want to be able to chill out, relax, and have fun. And his fun is work.
Mm.
He loves the job. Even after he retired from coaching, he was a consultant on the side and helping out with organizations. He's in the Jacksonville area now. He was a funny story about Tom was I was playing. I don't know. I must have been in the NFL at the time, or I don't know, somewhere around 30 years old. Went back by BC when he was coaching. He was the head coach of Boston College at the time. Walk into the office. First thing out of Tom's, when are you going to cut your hair? I mean, that's Tom, right? When are you getting a haircut, Doug? By the way, at the end of the interview, he's like, by the way, jot down your 10 top pass plays and get them to me. Just whenever, not today. Just get them to 6 months, 8 months later, I swing by BC. Hey, coach, how you doing? Yeah, I'm still waiting on those plays.
Wow.
It's like,
Yeah.
that's just who he is. He loves the job. He is one of the most amazing men I've ever been around. Most consistent people, and that's all you want out of your, being a head coach. He's a leader of men.
Yeah.
You want consistency, and that was him from top to bottom. And he made me want to be better than I was, like as a person, as a player, do the things right, cut your hair, clean. He'd have a fit. I didn't shave today. I'm not clean shaven.
Yeah.
I was going to a reunion. This was 3 years ago at Boston College. The guys were getting together. We were honoring, our head coach was Jack McNell. Tom came up for it as well because he was the offensive coordinator at the time. And we start to go to the event, and I get in my car, and I'm like, Coach Coughlin's going to be there. Hang on. I turn around, go home and shave, and went back. It's just,
You're a grown man.
he's sitting
Yeah.
there on my shoulder, and that's what he builds.
Yeah.
He built men. He built, discipline.
Yep. And Peter, and over the years he mentored me. He got my first blue blazer, and we weren't allowed to have facial hair. I grew a goatee for selfish reasons because I was told I looked like a Q-tip with eyebrows. So
Nice.
but I remember, the first time I wore the goatee to a party, and it was a function, and I walked around like this waiting for Peter, and then I saw him and he saw me, and he had talked to my goatee for, the 3 minutes we chatted at, and I'm thinking, oh boy, he's going to call me out. But that was when he allowed me to have it. But, you know, I remember going someplace and I had my hat on backwards, and he told me to turn my hat around, and I'm like, I'm hanging out. Why do I need to do that? And I didn't realize that the people we were with were investors, and I was part of Peter's team, and the perception that he was trying to raise money. And here I am, his right hand guy, and I'm relaxing. I'm at, maybe it was a concert or whatever. I didn't understand at the time the lesson, but I look back on it now, and I appreciate it. Like, he didn't
Mm-hmm.
yell at me, he didn't make me feel whatever. He just said, "Hey, turn your hat around," and never told me why. But it was those little lessons, and what I heard, like I listened to a couple of podcasts and stuff that you had, and you were on, and what I really took from it was a lot of it was, but how much you talk about your coaches and your teachers through your life. Um, and how you don't take a lot of credit. You take what you've accomplished isn't, oh, this is what I did, or this is how I did it, and this is why I did it. You say, this is what happened, and it was because of this influence or that influence. And I
Mm-hmm.
think too many people are trying to figure it out on their own. I'm trying to get to the question here, and the question is how important is it to be vulnerable, to ask for help, to get advice? Um,
Like, I said, I took everybody's information before I make a play call. I take in information. I ask the guy on the backside, how is that guy playing you? What's this, that? Yeah, you don't have all the answers. You talk about me giving some credit to coaches. I
yeah.
was just up in my hometown. We actually had some foundation events going on.
Mm.
And I swung by one of my old coaches' town. He was my junior high school coach, junior high. And he saw some things in me at the junior high school level and gave a heads up to the high school coaches. Hey, this kid's got the best eye-hand coordination I've ever seen. This kid can do this, that. And they were like, yeah. No, you guys got to come down. Just watch him for a practice. And I didn't realize that happened, years ago. We
Yeah.
were having these conversations. And he was the reason that when I went to the high school right away, that the coaches knew about me, gave me an opportunity, put me in a position to have success. And then, they start believing you, give you a chance and you play, blah, blah, blah. And, this goes back to and he and I still communicate. This is a junior high school. He's not really a football guy. He was a PE teacher in junior high school that, okay, you coach the football team type thing.
Mhm.
And those people, you never know as we get older what influence we have on a young person's life.
Yeah.
Whether it's teachers, coaches, just someone being at the little league field helping the kid out, throwing batting practice or what, you really don't realize the impact you're having. And it's so important to be interactive and help these kids out and help people find their way, because it is difficult on your own. It's very daunting.
Yeah, I just think about like just that one play that kind of the you know the pass. You weren't even thinking about. You were just thinking about trying to win the game, and you throw that pass, and then what that pass has meant to so many people at that moment, whether you're a Boston fan, college fan, or whether you're a Miami fan, but that play has such long longevity and has had such an impact and motivated a lot of people. How does that, when people come and talk to you about how grateful they are for that one little play? That's got to be pretty cool.
It's what's really cool about it is my roommate was the guy that caught it. Gerard and I were roommates for 4 years, good friends. We still are. Still, his wife, my wife. We're all tight knit group. We have been for 40 years.
Mhm.
Um, the there's a lot of little things. First of all, people don't realize we played Temple earlier in the year. At the end of the half, we ran the Hail Mary play,
Mhm.
and it looks identical to the Miami play. And Gerard caught it for a touchdown. Um, the fact that we're in the huddle and we all believe in each other so much
Mhm.
that it's just calling another play. And we've had success with this play already. So it's just calling a play and let's go execute. And, these are guys you went to school with, you lived with 24/7, dinner, working out, hanging out, all that. So there was always this bond that allowed things like that to happen. That's just the way I view it. A couple little funny parts of it. The tight end on the backside was actually the backup tight end, Pete Casper. He's supposed to be in pass protection. Well, there was only going to be a 3-man rush. I walk over, tell Pete, get wide, go long down the boundary. I might roll right and throw back to you. The play happens. I hit Gerard. Gerard makes an unbelievable play, catches the ball, touchdown. It's history, right? On the way to the locker room or in the locker room, Pete meets up with Pete, goes, hey, we had a chance on the backside. 35 years, I hear Pete telling me we had a chance. We had a chance. On the 35th anniversary of it, about 5 years ago, I see a different camera angle. There is Pete Casparillo on the 10-yard line all by himself. Because the
Yeah.
safety was the guy that drifted over, jumped up into the strong side or into the corner, or the backside corner, jumped up and drifted and bumped into the safety. Ball goes through. Gerard catches it. It's history, right?
Yeah.
But so I called Pete that night after I saw it. I said, Pete, you had a chance. He goes, yeah, but I would have dropped it. So,
That's
you're
perfect.
right, though. So many people, even Miami fans, people that are living in Florida, they got to talk about it to me. It
Yeah.
affected their lives, our lives, Gerard and I, our relationship over the years, and what it did kind of do. And even before that, we had a lot of last second wins, and I think that led to the confidence of having the ability to make a play. Um, that just it became the game's never over for us.
Like
There's
that's a
always a chance.
and that's a moment in time, right? And it's a special moment for sports fans. But for you, like a lot of people will go back to that. But you built a career beyond that. Was there any time where you're like, oh man, I don't want to talk about that, or did you find a way to use that? And then, what are some other moments? That's the one moment we all know about. But how many other moments and kind of came from that?
Yeah, I'll never turn it down. It always brings a smile to my face. It's fun to talk about. And this day, like I just said, 5 years ago, I found out new information about the tight end on the backside. So there's always a new twist, a new story about it. And we talk, and the guys on the way to the locker room and the stuff that happened in the locker room, all that. But beyond that, it's like I said, there's no finish line. So I throw the Hail Mary, have a great college career, win the Heisman Trophy. That's just the beginning,
Yeah.
right? That's just the beginning of your career. You're off and running. A really huge moment that not a lot of people, especially in the States, realize for me was winning my first Grey Cup, winning my first real championship.
Mm.
We were playing the semifinal game, which is like the AFC NFC championship game. We went 88 yards with a minute to go, no timeouts, into a 35-mile-an-hour wind, and hit a couple of big plays. I ran it in. We win the game. We go to the Grey Cup and then win my first Grey Cup. Um, that was huge for me, like a mental this hurdle that I finally had crossed. I
Mm.
had had great seasons. I had had MVP seasons, all this, but got beat in the playoffs or lost in the last set, and that was a huge moment for me to get by that, because after that we win two more championships, and it was a lot easier, or it felt easier anyway. There
Yeah.
wasn't this big mental hurdle to cross. And all of that launched me back into the NFL because
Mm.
of my success in Canada. And then from an NFL standpoint, my first start was in Buffalo, and we were playing an undefeated Jacksonville team, and we have a last minute drive again with no timeouts, less than a minute to go on the clock, and I wind up running the ball in for the touchdown, and that kind of springboarded my second NFL career. So there were a lot of moments along the way.
Yeah, I remember those. I remember. So I have behind me, I had that, but so not growing up. I'm 3 years younger than you, but played a lot of sports, undersized, and I always wanted to be the quarterback. And so we would play at the street, or we would play. And my hands aren't that big, but I always had a small football. We call it the Flutie ball, because I could take that smaller ball and just throw it, bomb it out all the time. So we used to play pickup football, but we would call it flutie ball because we would play with a smaller ball.
Also, you could
Uh,
throw it.
so, so there you go. There's that one.
That's awesome. I love it. You know what? And I say this to kids that are trying to be a quarterback. When I was little, I could just pick up a ball and throw it. Like I threw a football like I threw a baseball. But
Yes.
we had those Voight rubber balls back then,
Okay.
and they were different sizes, and I could just grip it and rip it and just let it fly and throw it like I would throw a baseball. And I always say this to kid, I go get a ball that because they always get these balls that are too big and they end up pushing it and they can't really grip it right and they don't learn to throw correctly. I think that's a big deal, especially when you're young, to have a ball that you can grip and throw, and you develop the throwing motion and the arm strength and all that. That was good. I remember like elementary school gym class. They had those little rubber Voight balls, and they were
Oh
really
yeah.
sticky. You could just grab them and throw them a mile.
And they were plastic. They had the really they weren't strings, or it was
The
like
laces on it were like plasticky. Yeah.
yeah, yeah. So I want to kind of, I don't want, I know you're busy and stuff, but I want to kind of get into another big cause that you're important to. But I think from a vantage point this way is, if from the outside you look at a storied career, a lot of people see, you look it up, you look at all your accolades, all your successes. Obviously there's some difficult times in there as well. But fast forward to Dougie is born, and you know, Doug Flutie, NFL quarterback, championship quarterback, and then he has a child that all of a sudden, I know when JT was diagnosed at 2, and this is he's 26 now, it was still just starting to get known, and it stopped my world at that point. Um, but that being said, as how do you handle adversity like that? And I'm not even, and I'll leave it this way, because I remember my stepson saying, "Pop, would if there was a cure for JT, would you have it?" And before I could answer, he said, "Because I wouldn't chase the cure, because JT wouldn't be JT." So that being said, but that's a big moment in life, and it's shaped your life ever since. But talk a little bit about that, and how that impacted you, and how you overcame it as a leader, as a father, as a husband, but then what you did with it after.
I think our football background and dealing with adversity and dealing with challenges, losses, all that stuff helps prepare you for moments like that. I really do. When Dougie was diagnosed, it was a kick to the gut, but right away we were like, okay, so he has autism. So
Yeah.
what do we do? What are we supposed to do? How do you, well, you need to start getting them in full days of school, 5 days a week. I'm thinking he's a 3-year-old. You're going to go to school for 8 hours a day already, 5 days a week. But that was the first part of it. The second part of it was Jim Kelly and I were friends. Jim had started a foundation for his son, Hunter's Hope for Krabbe's disease. And I'm like, well, we should start something in Dougie's name and give him a legacy and start helping other people. Maybe, we're given this platform. We've got to do something. And so you take on, I think the football background makes you take on challenges head on. It really does. There's so many people that pull back and woe is me and feel sorry for themselves. And why me? Dougie lives with us. He's 33 years old. He lives with us. He will the rest of his life.
Mhm.
And that's just the way it is. Where other people are, well, I deserve my own life and he should be on. No, it's you take the cards you're dealt, you deal with it, and you move forward. And that's just, I think, the teachings of playing football and learning to deal with adversity. We've had our foundation now for 27 years. We're approaching the $50 million mark as far as funds raised.
Yeah.
Dougie is helping hundreds of thousands of other children with autism. And that's the way we view it. People are running around doing 5Ks over in Europe, Berlin, you name it, with Dougie heads running around. Like, this is pretty cool. Like, he is making this impact worldwide. And, it has become, like I said, I always thought there was a finish line. You played, you had your career, you made your money, and you're done, right? I can sit on my laurels, but this is probably going to be the biggest part of my life. We've already, like, I played 21 years of pro football. I thought that was the biggest part of my life. I've already had 27 years of the foundation with 20, 30, 50 to go. That is going to become my life's work.
Yeah. And I think too, it's this idea that people, I say managers I'm just trying to correlate to what I'm talking to managers about. And they're so afraid of failing because they don't want to lose their bonus or they don't want to make a mistake. And you don't run into failure, right? But
Yeah.
failure is obviously maybe our best teacher. And when you do fail, it teaches you resilience to overcome adversity, problem solve, all that kind of stuff. So that when you are maybe later in life, like both of us were, tasked with, I call it a gift of, God gave us, my son, and I'm a better person for it. And everybody that meets JT is a better person for meeting him. And I know same thing with Dougie, but you know, I like that failing is something that will teach you lesson, maybe not
Mhm.
now, but it'll help you in the future.
I think it's a big problem right now in this day and age, though, that the younger generation is so protected.
Hmm.
Like, they've never had to, not having to deal with adversity. There's no discipline in the schools, things like, there's no accountability for a lot of, they can get away with all kinds of stuff in school and talking back to teachers and things of that nature that in our day we had to be accountable for.
Yeah.
They bring a paddle out of the back room and take you down to the principal's office. I'm not saying you hit kids,
Yeah.
but they now have no fear of that, and they've been protected a lot. The helicopter parent thing, and they're so cautious. Everybody, they're talking about putting people in car seats up until 14, 16 years old to protect them. All these little, all the little things. When you have adversity, when you have to go face challenges straight, you're not everybody is going to get the job when you have the job interview.
Sure.
You know,
Yeah.
you're going to have to deal with the rejection. And kids aren't being held back from school because they got bad grades, but they move them right along because, oh no, that's embarrassing. He can't be embarrassed in front of his other students. Sometimes you got to just step up, and
Yep.
that's kind of something that's missing. That
Yeah.
adversity helps you grow as a person. It makes you mentally tougher. It makes you more resilient. It makes you want to succeed the next time around. It just, I mean, I lost a lot of football games.
Mm.
I did. And as a kid in Little League, I struck out with the bases loaded in the championship game.
Mm.
And we lost. As a basketball player in high school, I've missed the foul shot at the end of the game. But
Mhm.
you know what? I've also hit the game winners. So, that stuff just, it helps you grow. And people have to take adversity, learn from the negative things that happen in your life or the tough times in your life. And Dougie was handed to us. Um, for a reason. We dealt with, it's work,
Yeah.
especially my wife is absolutely amazing with Dougie. The hours that we put in, but because of Dougie, we've raised $50 million towards autism, building
Yep.
schools, building camps, building whatever, and helping hundreds and hundreds of thousands of kids.
Yeah. No, and I know firsthand, what you've done with our organization, how we've done it, and one of the things I want to ask you though, as a father with someone with autism, early on when you start getting around other folks, other people with autism, there's all different perspectives and how you look at it and what you call it. And I remember saying to an older lady that my son has autism. And when you first are dealt with that, and everyone's trying to give you maybe positive advice or no better advice, like, oh, they'll grow out of it, and boys are slower than girls, and you want to headbutt them.
Mm-hmm.
And this lady said, no, he isn't autistic. And at first I was a little angry, and she said, what's his name? I said, John Thomas, call him JT. She said, he's JT. He has autism. And I there's some camps that say no, he's autistic, and other camps that say yeah, no, he's more than just that, the diagnosis. And why I tie that in is, there's so many people like say ADD or they have dyslexia, but they'll call themselves dyslexic. They'll call themselves ADD. They'll refer to themselves as this one thing when I try to tell them that's just part of who you are. Um, that your whole world is not just autism and Dougie. There's so many other things. He's just part of
Don't use it as a limitation. That's the bottom line. I think of what you're saying is,
it. Mhm.
okay, you have autism, but that doesn't define who you are.
Right.
You have the ability to do anything you want, right? And I mean, I was never diagnosed as ADD, but I guarantee I'm ADD. I'm sitting there, I'm in my classroom, my legs going 100 miles an hour. I'm playing the drums with my feet, tapping my heel against the wall. I'm colorblind. I got a
Mhm.
C in colors in like elementary school, grade kindergarten. I couldn't tell my colors. Um, I don't read well. I really don't. Yet I was an honor student through high school. I was a Rhodes Scholar finalist, top 8 in the country, and did all the, but it was a lot more difficult for me. I mean, I
Sure.
had to spend a lot more hours to learn things, to do, like I said, for me to pick up a book and read, that is not fun. My wife can sit and read. My sister, it's fun for them to read a book.
Yeah.
That's work for me. That's an effort. I got to focus. And some things are more difficult for others, but you know what? It doesn't limit you. You can still, you might be a little more work, might be a little more effort, but you can still get it done. And that's when you look at children with autism. Now, Dougie is very low functioning autism.
Mhm.
So we measure his strides differently than some others will measure their strides.
Mhm.
But it doesn't mean it's over. Doesn't mean you limit you. You keep going. He rides horseback on Thursdays. He likes to get on a surfboard out in the ocean.
Yeah.
Um, Loves the pool. All that stuff. So there's still a lot of things he can do.
And it goes back to, again, the beginning of the conversation and, you being maybe undersized, overlooked, and, what you've accomplished in that adversity. And then, you know, I'd say being blessed with the son. All our kids are a blessing, but what it does is there's so many people that will take that and then it'll crush them and crumble them. And I'm not just saying having a positive attitude and ignoring is it. It takes a village. It takes a lot of people to support you and lastly, but how important is it to not do it alone? Meaning, as a quarterback, you have the responsibility of maybe winning the games at certain points, and everybody's looking to you to have all the answers. And you need linemen to block, and you need coaches to do this, and you need wives to support you in this. Um,
No doubt.
I,
My wife is a workhorse with Dougie. It's a labor of love.
Mhm.
I'm responsible more for the recreational activity. He still loves the roughhouse. He's a boy. You want to, get on tumble. Um, we have a woman that we're very fortunate to be in a situation where we have a caregiver for Dougie in the middle of the day that allows us to get out of the house for a while. Um, like I said, he has horseback riding. The people over there are amazing with Dougie. Uh, you know, uh, and in the old days we had friends. You've got to have people you trust when you want to go on a vacation or get away for a while. You have to have people you trust that
Mhm.
are helping take. So yes, it takes a village. It takes a lot of people to help you out, and don't be ashamed to ask for help. It
Yeah.
it's been there've been a lot of amazing people along the way. Teachers, the people that teach, like he's my son, and
Yeah.
I'm not the most patient person in the world. My wife has the patience of Job, but I can understand having the patience with your own son. The people that don't have a child with autism yet work with the kids and have unbelievable patience and dealing with other people's children and helping them along, they're angels. They're amazing. I don't know how they do it, and they
Yeah.
are absolutely amazing.
No. And it was funny you said because today or yesterday I said it and I didn't realize I said, there was a time when you asked for help that was perceived as weakness, and there's strength in asking for help. And today I think people feel more secure in asking for help, where you're not going to get maybe taken advantage of, or that vulnerability, if you will, that
Mhm.
wasn't maybe allowed back in the day. It's not a weakness; it's a strength, and in asking for help and not trying to do it alone. Um,
Very true. Very true. Don't be ashamed to ask for help in any aspect of your life. Not just in our situations with children with a disability, but any aspect of life.
well,
Because even if it's not direct help, sometimes it's an idea. Sometimes it's just a little something that triggers a spark, and you're doing something else. But and it
yeah.
is amazing. And having the foundation, it amazed me that I say, but during my career, kind of had the blinders on, and it was all football and trying to be successful. And when the foundation started, it kind of took those blinders off, opened me up to a world of people that are giving and caring, and a lot of great people out there that are just genuine and have been absolutely amazing for our foundation.
Now, kind of ending it and bring it to, but this idea of be best you, and we're always filling other people's cups, and the idea of have to refill ours to fill other people's cups, and a lot of people think taking care of themselves is selfish, but we all know that not taking care of yourself is selfish. But if you were, maybe this isn't a fair question, but is there one thing that you have found over time, in self care, not self care, but something that you do for you to make sure you're the best for other people?
But I think my number one release is physical activity as far as sports and getting out. Whether I'm surfing or going for a run, all that, it clears my mind, brings me down, relaxes me. I get pretty intense. Yeah, I get frustrated at certain things that are going on, whatever. I get intense, and I'll go for a run, clears the head. That I don't know what you can see in here. I'm in my band room right now. I got my
Okay.
drum set behind me. There is nothing like cranking up the music, beating the living crap out of the drums for an hour to do that.
Okay. Okay. Yeah.
Yeah,
Have a release, and like you said, not a release in drinking or whatever, but it's a
right.
productive release. So, but hey, I appreciate it. I appreciate your time. I know you're really busy. I really look forward to chatting with you. Um, I've been a big fan for a long, long time. I appreciate what you do for the special needs community. You got a great organization. Nick is unbelievable. I've only met you the one time at the conference, but I hope to get to meet you again. And but I appreciate you coming on and having
My,
a little conversation.
my pleasure. Enjoyed it. Thank you
All
so
right.
much.
All right, everybody. Coach Hughes here with Doug Flutie on the Be Best You podcast. And well, check more about Doug by just Googling him, but I'll give you some other links and also about his foundation. You can get involved with that. You can learn more about how you can provide donations, or maybe there's something you can do. A lot of 5K runs, I think you guys are trying to set up around the country, right? So
Yeah, we do.
you can do that. So, but Doug, if you can stay on one more second after. But everybody, thank you. And Doug, I appreciate it.
Very welcome. Thank you.
All right. Be best you.